So if you know me, you probably know that I have a favorite character in Voltron, who I happen to have as my Discord icon a good 60% of the time, and who I somehow have to include in every Voltron video that I make. This one is no exception, and once again I get a chance to express how great of a character Shiro is. Yes, one of the Black Paladins of Voltron has now become something that could be a game changer for many future cartoons. Even if you don't watch Voltron, this video will explain how the show did something truly amazing for its fans, and for the story as a whole. Shiro's a man with a complicated past that was slowly revealed throughout the many seasons of the show thus far. San Diego Comic-Con revealed so much about him that I just had to make a video to express why this character is so great. But of course, huge spoiler warning as I go into the episode that was shown at the convention, as well as info gathered from articles online. But before all this, I would like to give a huge thank you to this video's sponsor, Voltron Amino. What is Amino, you ask? Well, it's a mobile network of communities that has representation for pretty much any fandom you can think of. If you are a fan of Voltron and would like to easily find a place to make friends, the Voltron Amino is for you. As a theorist, it is easy to see why one of my favorite things to do while browsing is to look at the theory posts recently made. And while browsing the most recent tab, I'll often participate in any polls I find interesting, or I can even create one of my own. Of course, I'm making this one about Shiro since this whole video is Shiro themed. So make sure to vote on this poll so we can see which Shiro reigns supreme. But I would also like to challenge everyone watching this to show me their Season 7 theories by posting your favorite ones on my account's page. Simply search up Cartoon Universe, go to my wall, and post what you have to say. I'll be replying to my favorite theories with my own thoughts. To download the app and participate in the theory challenge, check out the description or pinned comment for the download link. Once you're on Amino, search Voltron to join the community. Finally, be sure to follow Cartoon Universe to share your theories on my wall. Now, let's get back to the video. So, let's talk about Shiro. Season 7 Episode 1 of Voltron Legendary Defender was largely focused on showing Shiro and Keith's backstory. As I've totally called, this was originally supposed to be shown in Season 2, specifically in the first episode, Across the Universe. This would have made a ton of sense to get earlier, but in the end I'm glad we eventually got all this story, even if it was 5 seasons later. In this episode, we learned so much about Shiro's past to the point where I, as well as a huge portion of the fanbase, were totally caught off guard. I was actually at the panel, so I witnessed this firsthand. Luckily for my Twitter followers, the reception inside the convention center was terrible, or I would have been mass tweeting about it. Honestly, where do I even start? Perhaps with the most important part for many people. In the episode, we learned that in the past, Shiro had a boyfriend. To clarify, however, it has been confirmed in the same episode by the showrunners that their relationship ended. This is obviously a huge thing to so many people because they have been asking for gay representation in Voltron pretty much as quickly as it had been airing. But this was in fact something planned out a long time ago. As I mentioned before, Shiro's backstory was supposed to be shown in the second season. And I am super happy about this reveal because I've always been a huge Shiro fan, and seeing as there was something about his past that took me by surprise is something that I really enjoyed. Also, there has been a huge influx of new Shiro fans, so I'm glad more people love him just as much as I do. Also, let me just say that I was very surprised at this occurrence. I am very much a theorist and therefore look for evidence in every conclusion I make. Honestly, the best evidence for Shiro liking guys was that the show had never tried to tease him as a potential love interest for any female characters. Of course, you may have interpreted scenes in the show differently than me, as I know many people did ship Shiro and Allura, but the show has gone out of its way to pair its other characters, even if just momentarily. There's Lance and Allura, as well as him with a whole bunch of other aliens, Hunk and Shay, the few instances of Keith and Allura, and Matt and Allura. Also, Lotor and Allura, but that's another story. Allura is a very popular lady. The Paladins even joked a few times of Pidge having a girlfriend because they thought she was Matt in the pictures she had of them together before the Kerberos mission. So that left Shiro. The show itself recognizes that he is a fan favorite and a crowd pleaser, so not even teasing at anything explicitly was puzzling. Puzzling until now, as it was likely intentional since we know now that Shiro had once been in a relationship, but it didn't end on the best of terms. Looking back, it now makes a lot of sense why Shiro was the one to say to Pidge, "Owning who you are is going to make you a better paladin." There was also a rainbow above Shiro's head in the very first episode, so that may have been a hint. But probably the most interesting thing of note was actually a post by Lauren Montgomery where she drew all the paladins holding up signs, and the caption was that everyone was deserving of respect. And you might now notice on the right that Shiro is with Lance holding the LGBT sign. Logically, it made sense that one of these characters would be the LGBT rep for this show, since a lot of focus on Key's story was on race and part of Pidge's story revolved around her gender. Now that is what I call pretty darn neat. However, this is where many people stop when talking about how great Shiro's become thanks to the new episode. But there is another huge detail about him that changes everything we thought we knew about the character. This is a bigger spoiler warning for this episode, a little adventure. Ready? Okay, so we also learned in this episode that Shiro had a disease. It was a chronic illness that would continually weaken his muscles to the point that in a few years, he would no longer be able to go on any missions for the garrison. Shiro's boyfriend at the time, Adam, knew about this and couldn't bear to see Shiro risk his health again if he went to Kerberos. So after this final disagreement, Adam and Shiro ended their relationship together. But Shiro wanted to go despite Adam's wishes, as we know he did. With this in mind, every action Shiro has taken in the show has been with the knowledge that he will only be able to maintain his current strength and abilities for a few more years. Why did he sacrifice himself so quickly to go in Matt's place in the arena? Why do we see him do push-ups when almost all the other paladins are sleeping? Why did he push Keith so hard to become the next leader of Voltron, despite Keith's protests? All these questions can now be answered confidently by knowing that Shiro thought he only had a few years left to live, and knew this body wouldn't last much longer in its current state. So many things about Shiro we thought we knew have now been changed, and it was done beautifully. The point that I'm trying to get across is that Shiro is now even more important than he was before, not just for Voltron, but for animation as a whole. If you think about it, Shiro is a leader who happens to be Japanese, has an invisible illness as well as a physical disability and PTSD, and is LGBT. But none of these things alone define him. I've seen stories of how so many people can relate to him, and that is simply amazing. In addition, his ex-boyfriend Adam was a person of color, which means it's great to see examples of a cross-racial couple. At Comic-Con, it was explained that Shiro and Adam had known each other for years, and had eventually become a couple after being flight partners for so long. It is very sad to hear that they broke up, but it makes sense since Adam had never been once mentioned nor shown until now. Shiro is still likely getting over this relationship he had for such a long time. But back to Shiro. Having a character being some sort of minority doesn't mean that what makes them different has to define them. Of course it can, but for most people that simply isn't the case. Other animations should definitely take this as an example of a great way to include things about a character that were always there but were simply never mentioned since there was no need to do so until a certain point. My favorite types of characters are those that were already complex long before the present time of the show they are in, but we only learn about their complexity over a long period of time. And Shiro definitely fits the bill. Oh, and for those of you that were wondering, it was confirmed that Shiro's body is now illness-free as he now inhabits a clone body that was picked in part because it did not have the disease. And to clear some more things up, yes, Shiro was eventually supposed to have died at the end of season 2. The crew has stated they would have revealed another LGBT character as well as Shiro if that was the case. I could not imagine the fan response if Shiro had died in the same episode drop that revealed that he had a boyfriend. It would have been pretty terrible. But because DreamWorks executives knew how popular Shiro was going to be, they did not allow for this to happen. So because of them, we currently have a living Shiro. And apparently, he will stay alive from now on, thank the stars. Now only one question remains. Are Sven and Slav now canon as a couple?
Every time we touch, I get this feeling.
Anyways, I cannot wait to see what happens in season 7. I honestly have never been more excited for this show. It was heartbreaking to learn that season 8 later this year will be the last, but you can expect a few more Voltron videos from me before the show ends its run. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. We talk about a wide variety of shows on this channel, so make sure to click the bell icon to get notified of any future videos. You can also follow us on Twitter or Instagram at CartoonUV. My Twitter handle is at HAK_ER97. Thank you to the many proofreaders who helped to make this video awesome, and thank you Voltron Amino for sponsoring us. Thanks for watching, and have an animated day.